Hi, everybody. I think we should start our next session. So feel free to chat later, but now come back or whatever you want. Well, it's a free country. All right, so before we start our next session about AI and technical tools and so on, we are very happy to be able to give two of our corporate friends a little time to tell you a little bit about themselves. And we are very happy. We'll start with our colleague Myriam from ANAPHORE, a French software provider and an important partner in archival institutions. So I'm moving away from the screen. And all right, so great.
Okay, so my name is Myriam, and Louis, who is with me, we are vendors from France, and we've been in the field. I am myself an archivist, and we've been in the field for about 30 years. Okay. Okay. The unseen end of a researcher's journey. Researchers dedicate their career to uncovering the past, building methodologies, and preserving collective memory. But what happens to their archives after retirement or passing? Too often, the answer is fragmentation. The intellectual thread, the methodological journey, the human context behind the data simply disappear. A lifetime of scholarly work, hence not in preservation, but in silence. This is a gap that must be addressed. What researchers truly need. Researchers just don't need secured storage. They need continuity. They need a system that maintains the cohesion of their life's work, connects decision to outcomes, preserves the human narrative behind the data. What's missing is a dedicated archival pattern who understands that knowledge isn't just recorded, it is lived. Without this, even the most rigorous research risks becoming isolated fragments, disconnected from the very methodology that created them. ANAPHORE, the archival bridge between innovation and history. ANAPHORE fills the gap. We act as the archival bridge between innovative technologies and history. Thank you. Through our, he agrees with me. Through our approach of archivistique du vivant, we step into the researcher's process. We co-create testimonial archives that capture the story behind the data, using the producer's own words, reflections, and decision. We don't just produce archival metadata. We facilitate a reflective memorial journey that keeps the thread of a life's work intact, ensuring that future access is guided by the very minds that created that knowledge. Our expertise, sorry, I think I don't have, okay. I'm missing one, okay. So for the past 30 years, we have worked, of course, with various archival services in France and elsewhere. And our process goes from collection and throughout description, preservation, and access. The final of my text is not there, and I don't do it by heart. So anyway, our work is to accompany researchers, but also archival group or research institution in the, I would say, the process of producing archival description, put it online, and leave a trace. Voilà. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're very happy to have you here, and I hope you can have a lot of conversations with our partners, our colleagues. Yeah, okay, so and our next partner here is Kelly from ARTEFACTUAL. Is also a very well-known provider in the archival field. You probably know Atom, you know Archivmatica, and we're very happy to have you here, so the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I don't have slides, I apologize. I'm just going to talk at you and hopefully entertain you a little bit. My name is Kelly Stuart. I'm the Chief Archivist for ARTEFACTUAL Systems. I sometimes say I always have been an archivist and I always will be an archivist. I work for a company called ARTEFACTUAL Systems. ARTEFACTUAL Systems was founded by an archivist back in the year 2000 by one of my colleagues and a fellow UBC alumni, University of British Columbia alumni, Peter Van Garderen. Since that time, the company started out as a digital preservation consulting company. Peter had some tech chops and big vision and ideas, and a few years later, he was able to get some funding from the International Council of Archives to create a standards-based, multilingual, multi-level software system using open source software, writing open source software. So we are an open source software company. We provide services around that software, and the first one that I've just described is ATOM, or Access to Memory, or ATOM, which is used by hundreds of institutions around the world. And the second one is called Archivmatica, and Archivmatica is OIS aligned or OIS compliant, Open Archival Information System compliant digital preservation software. And so together they fill the full lifetime, the full lifeline of from born digital or digitized content ingested into a digital preservation system, the creation of an archival information package for long-term preservation, and optionally the creation of a dissemination package that can be sent to ATOM for public discovery and access through the designated community. Our company is small. We no longer have an office since COVID times. We are an all remote based company. We are around 44 folks right now, mostly based on the west coast of Canada in that temperate rainforest that Laura referenced earlier today, which I think I might have brought with me actually, judging by the weather out there. But we are spread across Canada from coast to coast and up into the north. And then we have an international team as well in Spain and the United Kingdom. So we have, we're a small company with a very large international clientele. We strive to build a world where cultural memory thrives. So we want to take those records of the past and be able to pass them on into the future and make them available for our children and their children and their children and so on and so on. And we're pretty passionate about that. In the last couple of years, I've been traveling around Europe a little bit, and the reason why we're here today is to kind of listen in, hear what folks are saying and talking about, engaging in conversations. We're really, as a company, we give our software away. It's free and open source. You can take it all right now. You can go to GitHub, examine it, download it, use it, and you never have to engage with a vendor ever, including Artefactual. But if you want to, you can contact us, and we can help you provide services around that software. So in order to be able to continue to maintain that software over time, we are paid by a small piece of that large pie that our community, our open source community. And so we're really looking forward to, what we find is the important part there is the strength of the partnership. The relationship is really what we're interested in with our institutions that we have around the world, which go from large national organizations to the smallest wee little women religious archives in Ireland, for example. So thank you very much for having me. I do have a little table at the back with a little mini banner. I can see it very clearly in between these two lovely ladies here. And there's stickers, please take them. I'm heading back to Canada on Sunday, and if my luggage was lighter, that would be fantastic. We also have some little magnets. We do have a couple magnets, and we have, what are those called? Sewing kits. Thank you so much. Cute, really cutesy little sewing kits. So please do, and please do come and take some of that stuff and lighten my load. And feel free to come up and chat with me and have a conversation. I would love to talk about archives, digitalization, digital preservation, archival standards, and description, access, and all those kinds of good things. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. All right, so it seems to me like we already started a little bit, because that was already about advanced technology, and that's what our next session will be about. AI, of course, everything is about AI nowadays, and advanced tech. So future is now. We start with a name that could already be in a science fiction book or movie, Annie. Giuseppe from the University of Graz, and not here, but co-authoring is your colleague Tamas. You're talking about a tool that helps with annotating data, I think, and it's called Annie. So the floor is yours. We'll see how advanced it is.
Okay, thank you. Many thanks. So, good afternoon, first of all, and I'm very happy to be here today in Tallinn and with all of you. In this very beautiful location, I have to say. And today I will present Annie, that is an AI-supported annotation tool developed by Tamas Kovacs in the ERC project led by Georg Vogler, that is over there. And the idea is to show how Annie can help us to move from digitized text to structured, controlled, and reusable research data. The central point is that AI can support annotation, but it does not replace the scholarly interpretation. This is especially important from medieval charters, because when we identify an actor, a title, or place of origin, a formula, we already interpreting the document. So the question is, how can we use AI to support this work while keeping interpretation visible and under scholarly control? Let me start from a simple problem. Digitization gives us access, but access it's not the same thing as a structure. A charter can be available as an image, as a transcription, or even as in plain text. But the historical information inside the document often remain hidden or implicit. An historian, of course, can recognize person, place, institution, but if these elements are not explicitly marked, they remain difficult to query, to compare, even to map or to reuse. And this is what I mean by archival dark data, because the data are present, but hidden inside the document, and while we can understand this kind of element inside the text, a machine cannot use it until we transform it into a structured evidence. So the annotation is this kind of bridge between the raw text and the human reading and structure evidence. So the ANI works precisely in this kind of space between the text and the usable data. The first problem is that digitized texts are not immediately interrogable. The second problem is instead the consistency. If we want reusable data, we need clear annotation guidelines. Otherwise, the same expression can be marked differently by different users, but sometimes even by the same user at different moments. ANI connects this element in one workflow. We have the annotation, the review, the propagation, the relation building, and then the export. So the movement is from text that becomes annotation, the annotation then becomes interpretation, and then this interpretation becomes reusable data. This is not an autonomous system that produces a final interpretation. It's a working environment where the historians read the text, checks the suggestion, corrects them, and validates the result. So this matters because annotation is not just highlighting. When I mark something in the text, I'm already saying how that phrase functions inside the document. And in medieval documents, as we know, the function is often context-oriented or dependent. A monastery can be not only a physical place, but even an institution or a legal actor. A geographical name can be a lot of things, for example, an origin, or just part of an actor name, for example. So ANI allows us to make this distinction explicit and corrected when necessary. The principle behind ANI is the transparency before the autonomy. AI suggestions are useful, but only if they are visible, editable, and accountable. This is essential for archival and diplomatic material, because the texts are rarely simple, because, for example, we can have different type of material, or we have variant spelling, abbreviation, form-like language, or even some bad OCR or HTR. For this reason, an AI suggestion has to be treated as an hypothesis and not as a final answer. The user can accept it, correct it, merge it, or even remove it. This is why I use the expression honest AI, that maybe is this one, not the other one, but I think I clicked twice the element, but it's fine. So the system does not hide the elements that are not certain, but makes this visible and put the historians in the right way to know where the elements are highlighted. So it's now one or just? I don't know if I'm going. No, how can go? Please help me with to come to the right slide. Because there are two buttons. So we are digital, but I'm just I'm losing myself about two buttons inside the one. So it's okay. Yeah, I just see the big one. My fault. So where we are, okay, the AI, the AI support in ANI is not a single black box. It can work through 3 different components that now I completely lose myself, but okay. So here we can see the workspace for the annotation. In the GIF slides here shows everything that we can do in the ANI. So and that's good because the workflow in reality is very simple, because it starts to the plain text, and here we can see how the AI workflow is working. Sorry, but I don't understand. There are the slides merged together. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, the first session that we can use with the AI is the session memory. Here, the user can validate the annotation in the current session, and then he can reuse that information. So if a form has already been confirmed as a person or as a place, an institution or title, the system can suggest the same annotation when it appears again in the text. Then we have the second component, that is the hybrid NER, that suggests the entities using in a local environment. So for example, other scholars have already made an annotation set, and then we can use it to validate our text. Then we have the third component, that is the generative LLM, that can help in more contextual cases where the same word may have different function depending on the structure of the document. So a case safeguard is that the model should be constrained in the active tag set because it should not invent new categories that we already have made. The suggestion still has to correspond to a real span in the text, so the memory reused the confirmation decision. NER detects recurring patterns, and then the LLM can support the context-aware suggestion. As I said earlier, the workflow is simple because, first of all, the user can load the plain TXT file. Then Annie can predict the possible annotation. The historian can validate them, can accept what is correct, can correct what is wrong, and can remove what is misleading. After that, the user can create typed relation, propagate the confirmation form, and export the data. So the sequence is load, predict, validate, relate, propagate, and export. The validate one is maybe the most important one because it's the decisive step, because it's where the automatic suggestion becomes scholarly evidence. Before looking at the individual tag, we need a model for the annotation. So for our case studies, that was based on a corpus of mostly Venditio charters, so selling parts, we have used a layered structure element. So for example, we have the level 0, that is the plain text, so the text that we added inside the tool. Then we have the level 1, that is the core layer, in which we can add, for example, the main actor or the temporality of the spatial framework of the document. Then we have the level 2, that is the analytic layer. Here we can mark categories that require more interpretation. And this is important for a diplomatist point of view because documentary meaning often belongs not to an isolated word, but to a phrase or a clause or a formula. So we cannot just highlight one single word, but even a span of the text. And that's very, very important even for name entity recognition. And then we have the third layer, that's the relation schema. This one is completely isolated from the schema from the other layer. We have another part from the relation schema. And it's important because a tag can identify the span, but the relation explains how these two spans are connected. So the tag set work as a grammar for documentary analysis. The core tag identifies basic elements like person, place, institution. Then the analytic tag captures the information that is especially relevant for historical and diplomatic research, like, for example, the title, the relation, the tax, the measurement, the estate, but even the legal element. That's for the leg tag. And that's one of the most important, at least for me, that I'm a diplomatist, so, because it marks the legal formula and even some technical clauses. Then we have the span tags that we have already seen, and all of these allow us to ask who acts inside the text, in what role, from what formula, on what object, and within what chronological or institutional framework. Then we have the interface that is organized around the basic operation of annotation. On the left, we have all the corpus, so all the files we have uploaded inside the tool and in TXT. Then we have the main area. We have in which we have the text of the document. This is where the user can read, select the span, check suggestion, and create the annotation. Around the text, we have the annotation control, so button, tag selector, and validation action. The entities list turn highlights into structured records, and the relation area allows the user to connect annotated entities. The annotation area is this one that is behind the tag session. So all of this, we have all the tag, and then in this part, the relation. Then, in practice, what the user can do, the user can select a span in the text and assign a tag. The tag this can be made manually, of course, or by reviewing a suggestion produced by the AI. It's important to say that any records more than the visual highlight, because it records the exact span, the offset in the text, the tag, the validation status, and even an entity ID. This is important because the offset tells us where the annotation is located, the tag tells us how the span has been interpreted, and then the entity ID allows the span to be reused in relation annotation. So what looks like a colored highlight is actually the creation of structured data, and that's the bridge between close reading and computational reuse. The first example that I want to show to you is the example related by the actors. The actor is not only a name, so that's the reason why it's important to highlight not just one word, but a sequence of words, so a span. In the actor, in fact, we have different type of element. For example, here with Leopoldus dei Grazia Marchio Austria, we have not only the name of the person, so Leopoldus, but we have even the title and the element related to the location, so the place element, we can say, the Austria. These kind of things give us a different level of analysis. For example, just the highlighting the name could be useful for prosopography. Then we have, for example, the important things for the title or for the location that could be good for the spatial or geographical analysis. Then we have the second example that is related to the institution and the place. As we say, the example of the monastery is a very, very good example because it can be a building, a geographical location, but sometimes it's a community of monks or, for example, an institutional body or a legal actor. So if we flatten all of these into one generic place category, we lose important information. And that's the reason why we have to make very clearly distinction between institution, that is the ins tag, and the loc, that is the location. So if we want to map location, we can use loc. But if we want to study, for example, the monastic networks or the institutional affiliation, we need the institution, so the tag ins. And then it helps us to make this distinction explicit. Then the third example is the one related to the transaction that cannot be one word, because inside the transaction we have a lot of elements, like for example the documentary element, the documentary clause, or we have the dispositio clause sometimes. So we have to identify every single element inside it. A charter is not just a container of names and place, because it's a structured act. It grants it by combining transaction, estate, legal element, number. We can ask richer questions. For example, what kind of act appears in the corpus? What kind of property are transferred? In this case, of course, for venditio clauses. Which legal formulas accompany which transaction? And this is where the annotation becomes a tool for diplomatic comparison and for diplomatic analysis. The last example concerns the chronological and numerical information. Not every number is the same kind of the historical evidence. That is used for standard dating expression, such as calendar dates, and TIM is used for chronological reference, for example, the indizione. Then we have even num, that stands for number, that is used for numbers that are not dates, but are, for example, quantity or element referred to other things. And again, if we export everything as a generic number, we lose every kind of information that is related to the document. So once the entities and the relation have been validated, any can support several forms of research views. The data can be used for GIS, for network analysis, for dictionary, even for training set, and for reusable annotation guidelines. The key distinction is between tags and relation. A list of person is useful, of course, but a network of person, place, institution, titles is much more powerful. And this is also where future development becomes important. one next step will be dedicated diplomatic layer, not just more tag, but a layer for the structure of the document. At the macro level, this could include protocol, text, and scatocol. And then we have, for example, more detailed level that include the invocatio, the intitulatio, the arenga, and every diplomatic parts. So we want even to add something that can control the visual part of the tag, because showing or hiding individual tags or entire layers could be a very important function when, for example, the annotation becomes too dense. So finally, relation templates could make relation annotation more guided and consistent, because we want to add even something that can I don't want to say automatic, but at least guide the annotator to explain the relation inside the text. So then I want to conclude, because I think I have to already pass my time. And thank you for the attention. Sorry for this kind of technical and mind problem.
You know, not everything is working in the future. Yeah, thank you. I think it's advanced, yeah? Seal of approval. Before we come to additional questions, I just wanted to ask you something. On the one hand, how extensible is it? So can you easily change it to work for different kinds of text? Of course, the data is very reusable in other contexts, but you know, it's always slightly different.
The thing is that in the moment you can add just a TXT file, it's very simple to use for any kind of text. Because the important thing is that you have the TXT element. In this way, you can just upload in the tool and then use it as you want.
I see.
And you can even add new element, new tag, and new relation element. So this one that I showed to you was the preset that we added in the tool, but of course you can manage it, you can erase it and add it.
So did we already see the next Monasterium editor by any chance? Or is that not something that you are planning?
Who knows?
Yeah, we will talk about that later. Great, so thank you. And are there any other questions about that? Please.
Hi, thank you, Giuseppe. Very interesting presentation and tools. I have a question in particular. If I understood correctly, the semi-supervised approach helps you to disambiguate the valorization of labels, right?
Yeah.
My question is, it's also possible to make relationships among entities?
Yeah, that's the main point. You can do the relation between any entities inside the text. And that's, you can do it very easily because you can just select one entity and then another one and put the relation between them. And of course, you can add a tag that made the relation, the explanation of the relation. For example, you can say that Leopoldo has a title as Marchio. That's a relation between two entities. And you can, of course, add a new relation. And the future development will be able to assist you to make some relations that are, of course, how can I say, explicit from the text. They will suggest you what kind of relation could be made. For example, by a title to an actor. It could be an easy relation that you can do, for example.
Thank you so much.
So another question, and then I guess we continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a question. I don't know, you know the GND, Gemeinsame Deutsche Normdatei. Is there a... is there a possibility to link this information with this kind of databases?
Well, that's one of the things that probably we will add in the future because it's very interesting to be able to add some more information or link to some external reference. At the moment, it's not possible, but you can extract the JSON file, and then you can manage it. And if you want to add some tag inside the JSON, you can do it in the plain JSON file. That is just with an XML editor.
Okay, so thank you. Enjoy the rest of the session. Yeah, see you later. So, okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Edelson from the Archives of the Jewish People in Jerusalem. He's here. Hi, nice to meet you. You will present UROsaurus, if I spell it correctly. It's another tool, not like any, but AI-assisted transcribing and cataloging tool for documents. So the floor is yours. I'm very curious.
Exactly. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel. I will be representing Central Archives of the Jewish People in Jerusalem and our project. I'm a bit afraid of this thing now after all the... Yeah? Okay. For now, we're good. So the collection we've been working with, and that's how we started all this AI project, is the collection of the United Restitution Organization, one of the successor organizations which were helping victims of Holocaust to gain their compensations in the after-war period. It consisted of former Jewish German lawyers who initially volunteered to represent also themselves and then other victims. And this is one of the few organizations which was dealing with personal claims, unlike GERSO and JTC. There was a huge amount of work. I think there were more than 100,000 cases overall. And unfortunately, only dozens of thousands are preserved. And a big part of that, around 12,000 personal files, I guess, are stored in our archives in Jerusalem. So we started, this is a big multilateral project because we cooperate with the scientists from Newcastle and University and University of Sussex, Daniel Simmons and Gideon Revenue, who are writing a monography about this organization, and also with the Bundesarchiv, which is preserving the data on those persecuted and applying for restitution. And so our part of this project initially is to digitize all the files. It's around 1,500 boxes, and maybe we also receive more from the partners. So overall, for now, including personal and administrative files of the organization, it should be around 30,000 files, I guess. Each contain up to 300, 400, 500 pages. I would say on average maybe 200, but it is something around 4 million pages, 4 million images. It represents the archives from different departments of the organizations, which were situated both in Germany, and we're doing the field work, and in various places where the Jewish refugees were survivors were situated after the war. Importantly, one part of it, like classic perspective on such collections, is the destiny of the victims, the evidence of the Holocaust events, but another part, for example, specifically interesting to our project, to our colleagues, is the development of German compensation laws and practices, which was also hardly influenced by the organization. So at first, we, and me specifically, have been working with this collection as an archivist, cataloging it manually. But then we, as the large linguistic models were developing rapidly, we came up with the AI-based cataloging tool, which we continue developing, and it continues evolving. And in the end, we have a large system, which is not just a magic button, but a complex pipeline. I would say it has many similarities to what Giuseppe has been presenting, because we have all the same problems. And I would say that, yeah, AI is being overused in the last years. And I would say the secret is to build pipelines which would combine human in the loop, which would combine classic coding and also AI capabilities to make a stable, precise system for archives. So how it works overall? Our partners from the National Library of Israel, were same, I guess, as here, are now in the same building, and they're helping us with the digitization. And we ourselves prepared the system itself, the chains of prompts, with which our AI agent addresses through API the LLMs and processes the collections. Then we process the files, check and correct the outputs. We have another additional step of automated check, and then we upload it to our archival and also librarian system where we store the data. So to get a bit into details, this is the input. We're currently working on the catalogization of the personal cases. These are huge files, up to hundreds of pages. Many of them are damaged, contain hand marks, and are actually sometimes hard to work with even manually in the classic old school way. Also, tricky part here is that these are mostly judicial documents, correspondence between different URO departments with private lawyers, with German legislative bodies and representatives, and only a few pages contain the valuable information on what the case was about, how it ended, which were the court decision, compensation sums, and so on. Unlike many of those of similar collections, they do not consist of simply of standard cards of questionnaires, which of course are also present, but not always. They do not always contain the necessary information, but the information is rather dispersed across the whole records. Once we have them scanned, we are preparing the prompt chains, and the first chain of prompts, the instructions given to AI, is designed to make the OCR and HTR. Currently existing models with each new generation score really well. We're also a bit lucky because everyone working with such materials struggle with the quality of OCR, but most of the names of the victims and the most important information is repeated in these documents many times. So although there are still typos, there's still mistakes in the transcripts and imperfections, but overall the result is still pretty well. And then we use for each metadata field a chain of prompts. At first, when we were experimenting, we started with using one large system prompt, but then we realized that it's too big for the context window, and the best way we came up with is create a chain of prompts which basically simulates a dialogue with ChatGPT or Claude Gemini. So at first, for example, to extract the individual contributors, the people mentioned, the system is instructed to list all the people, then divide them to groups by roles, then find additional data about their years of birth, about their roles within the case, and so on. And in the end, the data is much more cleaner. So what happens then? We have our catalogers. These are freelance archivist students from Leipzig. They're also fluent in German because the documents are mostly in German, and they're they're really helping us. So what we made is a multi-user system, so they can choose the files themselves and Usually it's from 10 to 20 files, but depends on the convenience to everyone. And then they enter their email and process the files. And after, it depends on the size of the file, but some hours, they receive the link with the output in a Google Sheet. Yeah, because in the end we upload the data to the system as an Excel, and also it has multi-user access as it's at the Google Drive, and we can check it simultaneously. And they are checking and correcting the data. I'll, I guess, get back to what the data contains a bit later. After that, we have an additional step which almost doesn't include AI, because as you can see, the metadata fields in this output are a bit different than in Mark 21 we're using in the end. They're a bit merged for the convenience of the corrections. For example, the geographic names are not extracted in a specific field, but rather are linked to every person, because it's much easier to check when they are related to someone, so you can see it in a text. So after that, with pure scripts and code without use of AI, they're transformed into the necessary data, which can be uploaded. Also some technical fields, which shouldn't be checked, like number of pages, are added. Also, the privacy issue fields is defined based on the dates of birth and death of the participants. We assume that if this person might still be alive, or a hair of even if he is a hair of a victim, but it contains his personal data, and so on. So we close the files. The metadata remains open at the website of the library, but we close the file, the scans themselves. So this is the output, the final output we receive. As I've told, it's an Excel sheet which we can upload directly to the system, and then it can be accessed through the National Library website. Just a few examples, I guess. I didn't calculate the time well, but if we'll skip the part. So I think it's interesting that first of all, it allowed us to extract a huge amount of data. I'll move to that really soon, but also to extract data which could have been missed quite likely when if the catalog would have been done manually. For example, there was a single mention. The specifics of the files is that they were not made. They were made to support the claim, not to retell the exact story. So, for example, if the parents of the applicants who were the victims of persecutions, who were deported, but if their destiny could have nothing to do with the claim itself. So if it is mentioned, it can be mentioned in one sentence only. As here, for example, it says the parents of the applicant died in the persecution, and this is how, and there is another place in the questionnaire where the mother's name, only the mother's name is mentioned, and this is how we can extract Ita Neumann, in this case, who became the victim of persecution, and yeah, in all the respective fields. Also, it works pretty well with the, after some experiments, we created the OCR and HTR workflow, which works really well with handwritten files and also with this noisy data. And for example, this file only contained a single page like that, but it extracts the whole story correctly based on what is said there, that there was a father of the applicant who was contained in the Sarny ghetto with the exact dates. Yes, and even huge files, as you can see by the page references, it has more than 600 pages, and I guess around a dozen of victims from the family are mentioned in different parts of the document, but it was all retold in the annotation of the file. Also, what working with the metadata, working with the LLM transcript allows us is to have not only the transcript but also the marks, which are sometimes important. For example, these are the standard questionnaires, and the only information about the relevant matters of compensation is contained only these small hand marks. And as you can see, the transcript contains where these hand marks were made, and this is how the story is retold correctly. This is the data we receive in the end. To be honest, if this would be our individual project, we wouldn't, as an archive, ever need and ever, especially working manually, spend that amount of time to extract that amount of data. But as we're also collaborating with Daniel and Gideon, for whom some secondary information, which is secondary for us, like all the individual lawyers who worked with the applicants, all the German judges who were involved, and also sums of compensations and laws under which the decisions were made. We try to extract this data as well as additional biographic data, not only on the victims among applicants' relatives, but also victims who were who were providing testimonies for this case, because it is usually, the testimony contains information that they have their own case, but we cannot be sure that this case is preserved elsewhere, and it might appear that this is the only document providing evidence of this person's destiny. So, can I get back? No. No. How do I get? Okay. So it contains some standard fields like dates, genres, very, very detailed content description, also all the individuals involved in the case, all the corporate contributors, related categories, related geographic places of residence, of birth, of death of the main actors, and so on. We also have this automatic field saying that the metadata was created by AI. That's an old version, and it also says verified, validated by human archivists. So we warn explicitly, and I think that it's important, of how this data was extracted. The challenges we still face is the explainability and traceability, same as Giuseppe told. It's more important to see where and how the mistakes were made than to have 100 or 95% precise result. Also, the data is still unnormalized. I forgot maybe to mention it, I did for sure, but at this automatic stage we have the geography normalization. We have a geography normalization mechanism. After it is checked that geography is mentioned exactly as geographic places are mentioned exactly as they are in the text, the names themselves are normalized against the authorities of our archival database and the database of Library of Congress, and it's specifically important for these documents as they contain a lot of historical names of German names of Polish towns like Breslau or Wrocław, or Königsberg, which is currently Russian Kaliningrad, and so on. But many other data remains unnormalized. For example, not only because of errors in OCR, but also because the applicants themselves transcribe something in different ways. they mistranscribe some names of the camps, and in the end it still requires data mining and finding patterns and correcting some of the data. A huge issue, maybe not specifically for this collection because it doesn't contain much of Hebrew text, and most of it is translated into German or English as well. But as we try it out on different collection, Hebrew OCR, and especially HTR, is a huge problem because large linguistic models cope pretty well with at least starting from 20th century handwriting. But for Hebrew, even the models which appeared recently score pretty bad for the handwriting especially. And also the models are evolving, and older models we're fine with by the by their cost and efficiency are degrading because the companies are taking these capacities and moving it to the newer models they're developing. I guess I'm out of time. Can I have 1.5 minutes? Okay. Very, very quickly, what we're doing right now is we're making an evaluation framework, which is always a nice idea to have, usually at an earlier stages, to evaluate automatically. Someone was talking about LLM as a judge, so we can have statistics, we can have metrics, and we can improve our prompts further. Also, we're improving the OCR pipeline and the normalization algorithm, which could combine, now it is algorithmic, so it finds correspondences in the spelling, but then it will also contain context and LLM step, so it could also work for names normalizations. And last thing I guess I'll tell is that we're trying to make it to a user-oriented problem which archivists themselves could use, because even now working with the fellow institutions, we're making all the settings themselves. What we're trying to do is that a user could set it up himself, and it could be accessible to all archivists. So for now, this is how it looks. One can choose the metadata categories, add some additional instructions, and process the files. And then also, I guess, quite similar to what Giuseppe was showing, we have the interface which allows to add and correct metadata in different fields. And on the right-hand side, you can see the document, which is also switched to transcript. So you can find where this data comes from and if it's correct or not. It will take some time until the thank you slide, but here it is.
Thank you. Thank you, very interesting. Quick question, then we have to already move on. So if anybody has a question, please state it now or remain silent forever. No, you can always ask later.
So ask me later.
Or if nobody else has a question, I have a quick one. Well, basically about the place normalization that you do. Do you do that manually or do you have an algorithm? Because these older names are often very complicated to find out where they are nowadays. Yeah. When you have like
we're doing with it with algorithm. It is not perfect, but as most of these names refer to the Jewish history, they are mentioned as variations of the names within our authorities database. So it's worked pretty well, but then we also check manually if it was linked correctly.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. Unfortunately, I think it was the last one that is live. Oh, well, live, but in presence. The other ones are live, hopefully as well. We'll see. We have some recorded presentations in the past also, but it was by accident. Yeah. So our next speaker is Beatson from Archipanion, a company that does also content extraction of archival material, visual extraction of data, and other things. And she will tell you about it in a minute or in a second, maybe. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can
great.
you see me?
We can see you, we can hear you very well, thank you.
Can you see my slides? That's the most important.
We can.
Brilliant. So it's lovely to be here. My name is Abby Beatson, and I work for Archipanion, which is a company based in Switzerland that specializes in AI for archives, libraries, and museums. Personally, as you can see on the screen, I have an archival background, having worked for the National Library of New Zealand and National and State Libraries Australasia. So what can Archipanion share with you today? Well, it's actually quite simple, because as a company, we've spent the last 5 years working with cultural heritage institutions all day, every day, supporting them to use AI in practical ways to solve concrete problems. So if this is our full-time work, then it's actually critically important that we share our learnings with the wider sector, and that is a very important part of my work. So to tell you a little bit about Archipanion, there's a team, it's a team of 9 of programmers, AI specialists, and archivists. The company has a 20-year history, and for the last 5 years has been specializing in helping museums, archives, libraries, and museums to use AI responsibly. We've got 2 key AI services. One is AI visual search, and the other is AI metadata extraction, which has some similarities with the speaker that we've just heard from. Now, rather than explain to you what we do in this area, it is much more interesting if I show you some examples. So this is the Swiss, this is an example of metadata extraction, and this is from the Swiss Federal Archives. So here they had a collection of 10,000 Second World War records, which you can see an example on the screen, which documented the fates of prisoners of war, including critical historical details for families and historians. Now, these records had been digitized, but researchers still had to investigate each record one by one in their research, a process that could take months, if not longer. Now it just takes minutes to search the collection. Why? It's because we used AI, again, similar to our previous speaker, to extract key fields from these records, such as name, birth date, and birthplace. And then we turn that extracted data into searchable data. Now, in this example, the Swiss Federal Archives wanted a purpose-built search interface to host the data that AI had extracted. So this, using this search interface that you can see on the screen, researchers can search all 10,000 records to discover patterns, trends, and links among people, places, and dates. And of course, in the interface, all the original cards are shown in the search results, so a researcher can view the original item for context and verification. Here's another example of metadata extraction, which is my favorite one. And this is a textile museum in Europe that has thousands of photographs dating from the 1920s to the 1990s. What was the problem they were trying to solve? Well, I'm sure the archivists in the room know it. They wanted to turn the written information on the back of each photograph into structured searchable data. Why? Because the reverse sides of these photographs often included really critical information about the photographer, the model, the clothing shown, and of course the year the photograph was taken. So by extracting this information with AI, researchers were then able to search across the whole collection for this information instead of having to inspect each photograph one by one. This is another example, the historical archives of the European Union. And one part of this archive includes the minutes of EU Council sessions. Now, these records are really valuable sources for researchers studying how policy is discussed and agreed over time. But as you can see on the screen, they also represent a practical access problem. And that's because these historical minutes are only available as scanned PDFs, as you can see on the screen, which means researchers can search by date and session title, but not by the agenda items under discussion during these council sessions, which is critically important for researchers. So what problem did they want to resolve? Well, researchers needed to search across thousands of council session minutes to find out which topics were being discussed without having to open and read each scanned PDF individually. So we used AI to extract the agendas from each of these council session minutes, and the extracted content was then returned to the archive's existing catalogue as structured data, making agenda-based search possible. This is another example of metadata extraction, which is 1,500 index cards from the Evangelical Church of the Palatinate. And again, they had to search each collection one by one, but now the whole collection can be searched in minutes because we used AI to extract and turn this data into searchable data. However, you'll see that some of the cards were not so straightforward because historic handwritten annotations meant that we needed archivists to review and check what AI was extracting to make decisions about what information should be kept. So for many of the collections, we've built a purpose-built interface for archivists to check and approve the information being extracted. And this is what the interface looks like. On the left, you can see all the information that AI has extracted. And on the right, you can see the original archival document. And so the archivist can then check or change the extracted data, and once done, approve it. And this is another example that we did for a client dealing with legal documents where there's no room for error. So AI extracts the data and the archivist reviews and approves it. So does AI metadata extraction currently have limits? Well, the answer is yes. For now, and as we all know in the room, these AI tools keep improving. But this is an example of a collection that challenged us. Why? This is for two reasons. Well, AI works really well when it's got a structure to the collections that it can follow to extract a consistent pattern of data. Now, that pattern of data doesn't have to be exact in any way, shape, or form, but for collections like this one, every single page was different. Secondly, we were dealing with heavily marked up documents where notes often overlap the original content. So collections like this are one of, a challenge for us. We were still able to extract a lot of useful information from this archive, but not consistently enough to warrant proceeding. So how do we evaluate whether we go ahead with a project or not? And this is the process we go through. So you contact us about a collection. And this is the bit I enjoy because I get to learn about some of the incredible collections from all over the world. We then take some samples from your collections and we go through what we call the experimental phase, where we test how accurately AI extracts metadata from your collections. We then run a pilot process, and this is really important for an archival institution because here we run it on a really quite large representative sample of your collection, so you really get to see what the results look like and how they'll integrate into your existing catalog system. And then we run the full service. Now, what I want to do is take a little bit of a risk here and show you a live demo of our other service. So I'm just going to do another share of another page. Hopefully this works. Yeah, I think you can all see this. Now, what I said before, we have two main services. One is AI metadata extraction, and the other is AI visual search. Now, this is an example from one of our clients, and it's an audio-visual collection. It's a film collection. And this is from Amorce, which is a French collaboration that brings together 19 film libraries and archives. And here in this example, we're seeing 30 hours of environmental film footage via AI visual search. So I'm just going to show you an example. So I'm looking for the keywords woman at work. You'll notice that I'm using multiple keywords to search this collection. And what AI is doing is you'll see that there's 3 toggles on the screen. Hopefully you can see my mouse. One says scene, one says text, and the other says audio. So what do they mean? Well, scene is where you're asking AI to look at every single frame in the film footage and search for what it sees. So if you look across these results, you'll see that AI is searching for what it sees as women at work. And then there's also text, where we're asking AI to find words within the film footage. And then there's audio, where we're asking AI to search across all of the audio transcripts across the whole collection to find specific words. So in this example, if I just click here, it's finding what it depicts as woman at work. You'll note it's taking me to the exact time frame in the film footage where it's picked up on that itself. Give you another example of this lady looking at a telescope. Again, it's taking me to the exact film footage, the film footage where this is being shown. But what if I want to go a bit deeper? And this is where it really helps us, because if I want to look for women at work in fields, for example, and I search for that, you can see it's immediately changed what it's showing us because we've asked for a more specific search. And you can see that that's coming up there. Again, I could go even further. With tools is another example. So as a researcher, which is what I used to be, you can start looking deeper and deeper into these archives for the specific searches that so you can see it's picking up women at work in fields using tools. Now, the next one I want to show you is when I'm looking for a word in film footage. So I'm going to turn off AI search where it's looking visually. I'm going to turn off audio, and I'm just going to look for a simple word like cafe. And here, if I just click on the first result, you'll see immediately, and hopefully it's not too small for you to see, there's the word cafe within the actual film footage itself. So it's looking for key words. Now, what if I want to search across the audio-visual transcripts for all the films? So I'm going to turn off everything except audio, and I'm going to search for the word environment. Here. And what we're seeing in the results here is across this film footage, all of the films that in the transcript have the word environment.
Priorities in the wrong places. We also have a problem of people. Yeah, sure.
People being pressed into using their environment.
People being pressed into using, I hope you could hear that, but it said people being pressed into using their environment. And it takes me to the exact timestamp where that's happening. So AI also helps us with new searches as well. So if I make sure everything's turned on, and then I want to look for concepts. Now this is something new. So if I'm looking for dangerous, if I'm spelling that correctly, activities, there it is, and I press search, you'll immediately see what AI is picking up on, of what it sees and depicts as a form of dangerous activities. And of course, again, takes me to the exact timestamp in the film footage where these results happen. Now, what if I want to actually go back to the existing catalog and say, well, where was this shot and who's this of and what other archival descriptive archival information can I find? Well, in this example, as you'll see in this, hopefully at the bottom of the screen, you'll see this orange button. I can then go and visit the original record to see what metadata that's provided by the archival institution is available. A number of institutions are now opting to have metadata, descriptive metadata, as another toggle here to be searched. So you can search the official descriptive metadata that was provided with this archive, but also get deeper into it by doing AI search, text search, or searching across the audio-visual transcript. Now, we've noticed that with our clients, and some collections that have very little archival metadata description that comes along with it. So they want to open up their collections for search. Others have really strong metadata description, but they want AI search so people can dig deeper into the collection. We're also working on a function of people search at the moment, and this is where AI can pick up on people's faces, but this is completely in the control of the archivist. So the archivist looks at who's found and then says, right, I'm allowing those people to be searched for in this collection. So I'm just going to stop sharing that now and go back to my presentation. So here you can just see some of the key points from visual search that I've just discussed. Use multi-word queries, you can search in new ways, such as concepts. We're working on people search at the moment, search across all the audio transcripts within a collection, jump straight to the timestamp where it appears, etc., etc. And I forgot to mention that you can search in one language and find content in another. So I've talked about both AI metadata extraction and AI visual search. What are the benefits for researchers? Well, they'll be obvious to most people in the room, but researchers can now search across entire collections in minutes rather than spending weeks or months in manual review. They can search within the content of collections, not just catalogue descriptions. And of course, researchers can really start to identify patterns, trends, and connections across thousands of records at once, opening up new research questions. Now, at the start of this presentation, I mentioned that one of my challenges is to help share what we learn in our everyday work with the wider sector. So as part of this, we're documenting our client work that we can talk about publicly as case studies, which you'll find on the client tab of our website. And most of them are up. I'm still writing up some as we go. But most importantly, the real knowledge sharing happens through the long-term partnerships with archival institutions. And we have clients that we've been working with for years because we have to work together with how these tools work. We collaboratively test new ideas and services, and we're constantly back and forth getting feedback on what we can do for these institutions. So it's conversations with archivists like yourselves that drive our best work. So I hope you get in contact. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a very interesting presentation as well. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Maybe anybody? Otherwise, here in the back. So wait for the microphone.
Hello, Abby. Thanks for your wonderful presentation. I'm Zoltan from Budapest City Archives. My question is, did you thought about abstract concepts? I mean, keywords with double meaning, or, for example, if somebody wants to search about the history of propaganda, for example, which is a bit abstract. Do you have any answers for that, or did you thought about that?
No, I mean, we're constantly testing with multi-word keyword searches. We're actually just finding out that you can even search with full sentences or even 3 sentences that come together. So with our archaeology clients, we really have to get really detailed about what we're looking for. And so we're still experimenting, and when you're talking about, for example, like the history of propaganda, this is something that we should be looking into. And we're also working with researchers to investigate how is AI responding to these types of complex searches like the history of propaganda or more specialized collections. So that's definitely something I'll take back to the team. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So that's actually, if I may, what I wanted to ask you as well. So the meaning of terms is very often very subjective. So for instance, dangerous animal is a bit more easy, but if you want to search for criminal activity, who decides what actually is a criminal and what isn't criminal? Is that something that can be worked with the client because it's based on their context and their content, I guess?
Can it be worked on with the client? That would have to go to, there's a big technical team that I work with, so I don't want to answer questions that I don't know the details of, but I suspect the answer is very much yes, because we're always growing and we're always developing. But we are working with researchers because we're very aware that with certain searches, as you've mentioned, we've got to have a very clear idea of what AI is picking up on and producing as results. So this is something that's so important to us, and for not to decide, but for researchers and academic institutions to investigate this and look at this. But with our technical team, we're constantly developing. And so if a client said to us, look, we're interested in your service, but we want to know how the tool responds to these kinds of searches, well, then we'd absolutely start investigating it and go from there.
Great. So thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. And we continue right away with our next speaker, again online, again live. Jan Sachers from the Town and City Archive of Aschaffenburg, who will be talking about, again, something a little bit similar, like creation and enrichment of finding aids and inventories of archives and similar collections. Hello, Jan. Nice to see you, nice to hear you, and nice to meet you.
Hello, thank you very much. I hope you can see and hear me.
Yep. It works.
It works. That is
yes.
Great. Now I'm going to hopefully manage to start the. Hold on. There we go.
It works.
Right.
Great.
It works. Yes. That's 2 things working today. That is a lot more than. Anyway. Yeah. Hello again. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here. As a representative of actually a 3-man team. Incidentally, none of which has a background in archives or in IT, which is basically the two things we're combining here. But yeah, to introduce our new project, Heimat Data, or Heimat Data. But in order to do so, I must first say a few words about the system that it is based on, that it will be incorporated into. The Heimat Hub is an online platform that was established in 2023 by the Stadt- und Stiftsarchiv Aschaffenburg in cooperation with Burglandschaft e.V. and Kulturlandschaft Karlgrund e.V., two charities working in cultural environment, to shorten this. And it was funded by the Bavarian State Ministry of Finance. It is an online archive where citizens, as well as local or regional historical societies and institutions like museums, can upload their own private archival materials like photos, scans, videos, or sound files that are of relevance to the history of the area, and so they can make them available to the general public. It has proven very successful so far. As you can see with the numbers on the screen. But we, as initiators, we have often been confronted with one concern, particularly by the historical societies, and also by some smaller communities in the area. They have large collections of archive materials, mostly images, that they would like to make publicly available, and sometimes they even have some form of database, or at least an Excel spreadsheet or something, containing relevant data and metadata. But they simply do not have the resources in form of money and or manpower to do so themselves. And also some existing online databases are terribly out of date, ill-maintained or no longer maintained at all, and often not easily accessible, i.e. if you don't know the URL, you won't find it. And this situation led us, the Heimat Hub team, Dr. Julius Goldman, Markus Schmidt, and myself, to think of a way to make large and heterogeneous collections of materials available online in an easy, reasonably quick, useful, and more homogeneous manner. So in July 2024, we officially started the new project Heimat Data, again funded for 3 years by the Bayerisches Staatsministerium, Bavarian State Ministry of Finance. And all matters of programming and IT are managed by a service provider named Codario. That's a regional company specializing in AI and cybersecurity. And the development of Heimat Data is happening now in several steps until the end of June 2027. Unfortunately, it's not generally accessible yet, so I cannot give you a live demonstration, but I will describe the ideas behind it, our guiding principles, the general process of uploading and enhancing data, and some of the challenges or problems involved. Since the Heimat Hub is an already well-established online archive for regional history, it was decided to develop Heimat Data as an extension of this platform. Heimat Hub is a WordPress installation, so Heimat Data was devised as a plugin, which will eventually be made freely available. The code used will be completely open source as well, so other institutions or initiatives can use it or develop a similar situation, similar solution based on our experience. And our main objectives are threefold. Number one, make the entire process as easy as and simple as possible for our contributors, who are mostly private citizens with no or little knowledge and experience of either online databases nor archival procedures and requirements. Number two, make the results accessible, usable, and rewarding or worthwhile for the users. And number 3, make the available data compatible and reusable for other institutions like archives and online cultural portals. One of the first and most important tasks was to identify which data and metadata are essential to identify and describe any individual archival unit in a way that is compatible to other institutions and cultural portals like Bavaricon, the Deutsche Digitale Bibliothek, the German Digital Library, or Europeana. And without asking too much of our contributors, who are, after all, not archivists. And, well, here the Minimaldatensatz or minimum record recommendation seemed the obvious choice. We also strive to apply the FAIR principles, a set of international guidelines designed to improve the findability, accessibility, interoperability, and reusability of digital research data for both humans and machines. And, well, this is the current state of development. Accredited contributors can initiate a project and upload their files through a simple interface. If a collection of metadata exists, this can also be uploaded and linked to the uploaded files. The system will then process the files and connect them with the existing data. Unfortunately, at this point, at this point, the system still requires the metadata to be organized in a specific way in an Excel spreadsheet called a master file. In the final stage of development, a combination of AI and human agency shall be able to assign individual fields to any existing online or offline database to the fields required in the Minimaldatensatz, minimum data recommendation. Yeah, that will make the whole process even easier and more universally applicable. In a second step, or if no collection of metadata exists to begin with, contributors can add additional information manually, either for individual files or for any number of files at once. But more importantly, it is also possible to have AI provide additional data. This refers, for example, to descriptions of image content, but also automated generation of tags, automated dating, and sometimes even localization. Perfecting prompts and training the AI is one of the most prevalent tasks at the moment. In the current stage of development, the results cannot be published, but once Heimat data goes online, all uploaded files will be or can be made available through the Heimat Hub platform, unless contributors choose not to, for example, for legal reasons. In this case, only the data will be visible, but not the image itself. All content on the Heimat Hub platform is shared under a Creative Commons license, and metadata can also be exported later using the Lido format, lightweight information describing objects. Yeah, you can see an example on screen where an image has been enhanced with a description by the AI and automated generation of tags. Well, which leads me to some of the problems or challenges that we're facing, one of which is the use of AI in general. In Germany, and I'm sure almost everywhere else, communities and institutions are currently trying to figure out how to deal with AI in a safe and protected manner, how to use it and where, how and where to restrict its use, and so on. The town of Aschaffenburg and the Stadt- und Stiftsarchiv are no exceptions, and we are currently operating within a legal framework that is actually subject to change on a fairly frequent bases. Most recent example for that, we had been using Google's Gemini AI until we were no longer allowed to, because we weren't allowed to use any services that were connected with the Google Cloud. So we switched to others. We tried several others, and were actually able to prove to the IT department that the others were not as good at this job as Gemini was. So like after 3 or 4 weeks of back and fro, we are actually now again allowed to use Google Gemini. Main concerns, of course, on the administrative side are the protection of personal data, the use of copyrighted material for machine learning, and transfer of information outside of the EU, that means to the US. On the operating level, of course, AI is only ever as good as the instructions it receives to perform a certain task. And perfecting the prompt used for image description is therefore one of our major tasks at the moment, and will likely continue to be so for the foreseeable future. That prompt basically currently gives the AI a role of an art historian, and tells it what to look for, how to describe things, how to make a difference if it is certain or if it just assumes certain facts and so on. And another concern is the distribution of illegal or inappropriate materials. For example, the use of forbidden symbols, depictions of violence or nudity, or violations of personality rights. So far, there is no technical solution to address these problems, which means that all content has to be verified and approved by human agents prior to their publication. And well, I'm coming to the end already. Going live with Heimat data is scheduled for the 26th of June. That's the nationwide Digitaltag or Digital Day here in Germany. And despite some obstacles like I just described, we are very confident to meet this deadline with a first version that will not feature the full functionality, but that shall, however, be achieved before the end of funding in June 2027. And we firmly believe that Heimat data, especially in combination with Heimat Hub, offers a valuable solution to make a wealth of archive materials from private and communal sources available to the general public in a modern, fairly easy, standardized, and universally usable manner. Heimat data, we're sure, will also strengthen the connection and cooperation between academic research and so-called citizen science in the field of regional history even further, and also hopefully help build a bridge between a younger generation of so-called digital natives and the typically older or aging representatives of amateur regional history research. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much as well. Maybe we have any questions from the audience before I get my time. So, do you have any questions? I mean, for this very interesting project. If not, well,
I steamrolled over them.
Well, I'm just go right ahead. Now, well, okay. I think it's very interesting. You're pointing to a lot of issues that I think many of us have that work with AI, especially the privacy and limitations, the different providers, sure. Reliance. So, how did you convince your IT team or your administration that you were allowed to use Gemini again? Just by proving that it's just better suitable for your use case?
Well, no, that helped, yes. But it also helped that we were not the only project using Gemini at this point. And we are funded by the Bavarian State Ministry, but at least 2 other projects that use Gemini were funded directly by the town of Aschaffenburg. And they basically also said, if you want half a year of work down the drain and money down the drain, then we can start again with another AI. But if not, then let's use Gemini and try to deal with any complications later. So yeah, we were rather fortunate in this case. That especially that the town of Aschaffenburg is very leading in all things concerning digitalization. They have a special bureau for that. They have a venue in the center of town where citizens can come and receive guiding, can come with their problems and questions about anything that has to do with public services online, for example, and so on. They're very much leading in this field, certainly in Bavaria, probably in Germany. And so they are very keen to drive anything ahead that has to do with digitalization, and AI is the top theme in digitalization at the moment. So yeah, we are very lucky. Others might not be so lucky in other towns, in other environments.
Okay, so thank you very much. And yeah, we'll continue if our last presenter is already online. Great. So thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting, and good luck with the release.
Thank you. We can keep you updated. Watch out for the 26th of June.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I think that was already quite a well-rounded program, and we are going to round it off even more with a fitting presentation that will help us probably solve a big question that at least I myself had for some time. Yeah, next speaker is Samson Mutsagondo from the Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi. And hopefully he will help us answer the question whether or not we will still have a job in 10 years or 15 years because of all the progress being made by AI. So nice to have you here, Samson. Nice to meet you. I hope you can hear us and see me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. We can hear you as well. We can see you. So we are very curious on your presentation, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can you see my slides?
Yes. You have to start the presentation, but we can see your screen already.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, it works. Great.
Hello, colleagues. Greetings from Abu Dhabi. The title of my presentation is Artificial Intelligence and the Human Skills, Redundancy, Conundrum, and Records and Archives Management. This is an academic paper that I'm preparing, but at the same time, I hope it will also assist us practitioners and professionals in records and archives management and preparing for the future. So in this study, I'm looking at the impact of artificial intelligence on records and archives management. So technology is, we celebrate each time we have new technology. Technology has been with us from time immemorial. We have had technological advancement from the time that human beings surfaced on this earth. And each time we have new technology, we celebrate. For example, we've celebrated when we got the printing press, we celebrated when we got typewriters, and when we got computers. Now we have artificial intelligence technology, and we are also celebrating, but nonetheless, there's the other side of artificial intelligence that we are saying may not be very good for us, and this is the part that I'm looking at. So how is artificial intelligence different from other technologies? It is different in the sense that it is not just replicating human intelligence, it is replacing human intelligence. It has transitioned from being a tool for work processes to being a direct competitor on the job market. So in other words, I'm saying here, we are competing with artificial intelligence for the little space that we have on the job market. So this substitution effect raises serious social and ethical concerns. To put the study into perspective, I will start by defining a few key terms. For example, records, information, which is information created, produced, and received in connection with organizational transactions and activities. And records management, that's the management field, or the field of management that is responsible for the efficient and systematic management of records and information. And archives, by archives I mean records that are preserved permanently because they have enduring value. I'm happy that this is an archives conference, and I think all of us come from that background and we are familiar with these terms. Then artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processes by computer systems. In my presentation, I'm going to be talking about machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing and other AI technologies that are now being used in records and archives management. And I'll try to show how they are impacting negatively on the employment side in records and archives management. So these technologies perform tasks better, faster, and more efficiently than human beings. And this makes it my study has two research objectives. The first one is to identify records and archives management processes where AI is competing with or slowly replacing human intelligence. The second objective is to examine the inevitability and imminence of AI-induced job losses in the records and archives management fields. And as I said, this is an academic paper that I wish to publish in the near future after you assist me make it better. The study also has a research problem, and this research problem is that AI promises efficiency gains, and at the same time it raises serious ethical concerns about job displacement in records and archives management, potentially rendering traditional skills obsolete and threatening professional livelihoods. Technology should improve human life, but when it threatens our survival means, we raise red flags. So this is the basis of my study. This study is a product of comprehensive desk research where I analyzed or where I reviewed literature on artificial intelligence and on employment, specifically in the records and archives management fields. I used journal articles, conference proceedings, book chapters published between 2020 and 2026. And in order to maintain scientific rigor, I excluded using gray literature. So in pursuit of objective one, which I said is about how looking at how AI is replacing human beings, or how AI is competing with human beings. So this is what I'm addressing right now. So you find that in all records management processes, throughout the records lifecycle, you find that it is possible to use one or two or more AI technologies from the time we create a record or receive a record right up to the time we dispose a record. We can use AI in all these processes. For example, in creation of records, you can use natural language processing, and filing, we can use machine learning and natural language processing. In classification, we can use robotic process automation. In storage, we can use natural language processing and machine learning. In appraisal, we can use machine learning and deep learning. In preservation, we can use deep learning and machine learning. In providing access to records and archives, we can use robots as well as chatbots. In disposing records, we can use machine learning as well as robotic process automation. So from routine filing to strategic decision making, AI is transforming every aspect of records management, thus creating direct competition with human expertise at all levels. So be it you are using the records lifecycle, AI is everywhere. Be it that you are using the records continuum theory or concept, AI is everywhere. And one of my findings is that no one is safe. As we saw from creation up to disposal, no one is safe. Even managers or directors are not safe. Why do I say so? Because we see AI in augmentation, where AI assists human beings. We see AI in substitution, where AI is replacing human beings. We see AI in full automation, where it fully replaces human beings. So the third variable, I think, is the worst situation that we would want. Of course, we cannot help it. We may have it in the near future, but if we have full automation, it would mean that human beings are 100% sidelined. Nonetheless, it would be naive to say that all records management tasks are equally affected. Some tasks are more affected than others, and the most affected are the routine and repetitive tasks, which comprise 44% of all records management tasks. And examples of these are data extraction, classification, filing, description, and destruction of records. The least affected, which comprise 56% of tasks, include, these are non-routine: appraisal, sensitivity review, redaction, preservation, and making ethical judgments. So this is a wake-up call for us who are practitioners, who are professionals in records and archives management. We need to look at where we are. If you happen to be working in a routine and repetitive domain, you are more likely to be affected by AI substitution than those who work in non-routine tasks. So, as I said earlier on, managers, records managers, archivists, directors, they are also going to be affected in the near future. But of course, they are not as affected as those who work in routine and repetitive tasks. Then in addressing objective 2, I'm looking here at the inevitability and imminence of AI-induced job losses. Are we going to have this? Is it imminent? Is it imminent, or is it inevitable? And my answer is yes. I firstly used the Global AI Readiness Index of 2024. And according to this index, the United States and Singapore and the UK are the leading countries in AI readiness in the world. What does this mean? It means the more ready, AI ready a country is, the more it is exposed to these challenges on the job market. And regionally, we have countries, for example, in the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa. The UAE is the leading country there with 75.66% readiness. Brazil in Latin America or South America is leading there. Then in South and Central Asia, we have India also leading. Then in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have Mauritius, South Africa, and Rwanda. We know Sub-Saharan Africa, we normally say that this is a region, part of the region in the global south that is not technologically developed, very technologically developed. But as you can see, Mauritius is leading there with 53.94% readiness, South Africa 52. So these percentages are above half, meaning to say more and more countries are becoming AI ready, and this problem may be with us sooner rather than later. Factors driving AI adoption, this is part of my objective 2 as well. What is driving AI adoption in records and archives management? One, the drive for business efficiency and effectiveness. What humans do in days or months, AI is doing in minutes. For example, here I have an example of Record Point, which is an information management platform, which in early 2026, a few months ago, processed 15 million data transactions in a day. 15 million data transactions in a single day. Human beings cannot cope with this, so we need systems that are efficient, that are effective, and this is why we are seeing AI coming in. There is also increasing e-government adoption in the world, including the global south. For example, I have a statistic here. As of 2026, 76 UN countries have achieved a very high tier of e-government development. They've adopted and now they've developed. So that is part of an example which shows how many countries are adopting e-government and also developing in e-government. Then number 3, there's this issue of big data explosion. Manual processes cannot cope, like I said a few minutes before. Manual processes are now failing to cope because we have so much data, we have so much volumes of data, we have variety of data, we have velocity of data, the speed at which data is generated and processed. Human beings cannot cope. So naturally, we will go for technologies that can assist us, and AI is one of those. Number 4, cost savings mantra. Now throughout the world, we are talking about economics, economics, that we need to save. We need to have cost savings. So technology such as AI reduces cost dramatically, and that makes it very attractive for use in records and archives management. Technology usability, that's another one, the 5th and last one. AI is increasingly becoming user-friendly and accessible. I think we have heard about the technology acceptance model or technology acceptance theory, which talks about perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, and where we say that the easier technology is easy to use, the more it is likely to be adopted. And the easier, the more useful technology is presumed to be, the more it is likely to be adopted. So what shall we do the way forward? We have, I have here what I refer myself to as the skills cycle, which is de-skilling, upskilling, reskilling, and mega skilling. So as industry de-skills, we'll start from number 1. As industry de-skills, we professionals, practitioners, organizations, national archival institutions, we also need to de-skill. And what do we mean by this? We need to let go of those skills that are obsolete, or those old automated skills that we currently have. We need to move with the times. We need not to resist change. If we have to de-skill, we have to de-skill. From there, we go to upskilling, where we have to upgrade existing manual skills or some old automated skills. So upskilling here is different from reskilling. Upskilling is upgrading. And reskilling is the acquisition of new skills to match new roles or new demands of the day. So we also need to do the needful, for example, through conferences, through seminars, college courses, university courses, to upgrade ourselves as well as to reskill. Then the last variable there is mega skilling, where we need to have records management skills, yes, as the primary skill. But in addition, we need to have other skills such as ethical skills, strategic management skills, leadership skills, advanced technological skills, so that we can operate at optimum level. Conclusion and future directions. AI is no longer just enhancing work processes and records and archives management. It is actively competing with and replacing human workers across the entire records life cycle. So I have 4 research priorities here that I'm selling to the records and archives management fraternity. The first one is to develop, we need to develop strategies for human-machine collaboration. There's what is called HITLI, human in the loop, and what is called HOTLI, human on the loop. It's different, human in the loop and human on the loop. Here, human beings are collaborating with machines, with robots, with AI, etc. And the most undesirable situation will be HOTLI, which is in red, HOTLI, which is human out of the loop. Here, this is where AI is doing everything from configuring work, from planning work, to implementing the work, to producing the results, to evaluate the results of whatever is done. So when this happens, it would mean totally human beings are out of the job market. We also need to create upskilling, reskilling, and mega skilling frameworks. Upskilling, reskilling, and mega scaling frameworks. We need also to explore synergetic relationships in the 5th industrial revolution. We also need to design interventions to mitigate harsh labor effects. I'm not coming here as a prophet of doom, so I have this message to all of us here that the future is not all bleak. That is, if the world prepares for it through continuous learning and adaptive collaboration. These are some of the sources that I used in my work. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your interesting presentation. So not totally doom and gloom, not like the weather outside.
No, it's not gloom.
So are there any questions, or is one question from the audience maybe? Does anybody? Well, cannot ask anymore. No, sure. I think it's a very important field for us in general, because on the one hand we are wishing for more efficient tools to solve the hundreds of kilometers digitization problems, but on the other hand, of course, nobody wants to have the computer do all the fun work. So thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Have a nice rest of the day, or I don't know how late it is.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Yeah, so that concludes, I think, our session in a nice way. We have some announcements to make.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Daniel, for this last sharing. And now this is only 5 minutes to grab some refreshments, but not here, not in this room. So very, very important announcements, 2 of them now. Let's pick up all of our belongings, despite the fact that tomorrow morning we will be here in the very same room, of course, but we can't leave from this room through the same entrance as we just came in earlier today. So we are having here among us our dear colleague from the National Library side and all the rest of my team members to guide you now through the building to the wing of the National Archives. So please take the coats, belongings, etc. But stop for a second. So tomorrow morning, we will, yes, as I said, still use the very same entrance. So please be back here tomorrow, latest at 9:30. Okay, the late people can also be a little bit late, but tomorrow we will start up with our another whip quest coming from Italy, Mr. Giuliano Romali, so the first speaker tomorrow morning, speaking about the whole ecosystem of Italy's cultural heritage. Please be here. And so, those who will use or who want to use elevator, as Vladka, for instance, please, please be right there. This part, and my colleague will be waiting for you to use another part of elevator. So we won't use this part anymore, but now there will be a colleague from the library guiding you out, and I will be the last one. So no fear, no fear. Thank you for this day, and we will gather very soon at the National Library site. Thank you.